Hey guys, my name is Ryan and welcome to Overwatch Central. So the talk of quad tanks becoming quite popular has got a lot of people concerned and worried about what the future meta may be. Especially on certain maps like Horizon Lunar Colony, which you're watching in the background, quad tanks can become an incredibly popular strategy that you see a lot of teams run. However, in this video we want to talk about countering quad tanks, as nobody's really done that yet, talking specific heroes. Also on that subject, with Junkrat being nerfed, a lot of people are wondering sort of where is his place in the game. Is he still a viable pick? Is Jake gonna be like homeless after this stage of the Overwatch League because of the Junkrat nerfs? Well, I actually do feel that these topics do coincide, and whilst this isn't necessarily something new for Junkrat to do, I do feel that countering quad tank is going to be like his next win condition, I suppose. And as I said, this isn't a completely new job for Junkrat. It's not as if he's going to be a mailman or something like that. It's just something that Junkrat already did, but I do feel that Junkrat is going to become synonymous with countering quad tank in a similar sense to, I don't know, Widowmaker being countered by Winston being countered by Reaper being countered by Pharah, and XQC being countered by the new Twitch guidelines. The gameplay in the background is from the Overwatch Pick Grand Finals for EU. It was a final between Angry Titans and those guys. Those guys went on to win it. But this isn't one of the best teams in EU facing off against one of the worst. These are the two best teams, or two of the best teams in EU fighting off, and you're seeing how strong Junkrat is against these quad tanks. Quad tank on maps like Horizon Lunar Colony is almost like a gut punch or a kick in the nads for us fellas. It can be quite surprising, bit of a cheap shot, but it's meant to sort of surprise and to really take back the enemy in a lot of senses. And so quad tanks can be used in that fashion to just bull rush the first point with the Lucio, get a lot of healing out and a lot of ult charge for your Moira, with the four beefy tanks being able to survive anything that you throw at them, get themselves on a point and basically going, we're four big fat people, you need to try and move us off this point or we're going to cap it. And as you're seeing on screen now, we have the perspective of Kib that is just firing from a distance. Whilst this is sort of happening, you're going to be able to see how quickly Kib on the Junkrat is able to get these ultimates and how much use he's managing to find out of them by killing the Moira, and he gets several kills throughout this match as it's playing in the background. But as we're talking about this, I want to talk about a composition, an interesting team composition that Mangachu, a pro player, actually suggested in a Discord call. So for those who don't know, XQC, because he's banned, he does these big Discord calls where he basically kind of casts over the Dallas games as they're happening, providing his insight, talking about what's going on, just general things that the pros spot that we don't necessarily spot because we're not keen to those sort of things that are going on. Well, somebody asked Mangachu, who was also in this call, also fellow Canadian with XQC, how to counter quad tanks as the popularity of it is growing very quickly. And what he said is there's a certain composition that you can run that is very anti-quad tank, and that is a Risa Roadhog on the tanks. The supports are Moira and Zenyatta, but the DPS were quite interesting. We have Junkrat, which of course is very good, but also Hanzo. He said that Hanzo was really good in this lineup for quad tanks, and people were like, wait, what, really? And he went on to explain that basically the full team that is going up against quad tanks wants to be focusing on one thing and one thing only, and that is the Reinhardt shield. Reinhardt is one of the ever-present heroes that you're going to be seeing in a quad tank lineup, and basically the focus fight is going to be on breaking this Reinhardt shield, and once that's down, being able to burn the supports and get a lot of ult charge from those big beefy tanks. As I said, they can take a lot of damage, so the plus side for that is you get a lot of ultimate charge out of them. Now whilst this is really interesting, unfortunately there isn't any actual footage of this composition being used against quad tank, but I definitely thought it was worth mentioning as a team composition, what the pros at least, or some of the pros, feel is a good counter to quad tanks. What I guess surprised a lot of people was that people were saying the likes of Reaper. Reaper's exceptional against playing those tanks, and so is Mei to an extent as well. But I guess it kind of makes sense when you think of it like this. Quad tanks likes to fight up close and personal. That's why you have the Lucio, that he can speed boost you into the backline or to the front, just into the enemy team, just catapulting 4 tanks at them. Well, Reaper does like to fight up close too as well, but he's going to do a chunk of damage, try and Wraith on when things go badly, but it's not the most difficult thing in the world for the tanks, especially in a coordinated team, to go, the Reaper's coming out of Wraith, he's on point, kill him, and he will eventually die. But the good thing about Junkrat and Hanzo especially is the fact that you can keep at a distance and still throw in a tremendous amount of damage. The same thing would apply for Pharah as well, who is another hero that we are seeing in these quad tank lineups being used. And by all means, a lot of this applies to the triple tank lineups as well, and one of the main things you certainly want to watch out for is the Moira getting her coalescence quickly. We're going to show some triple tank of the Angry Titans Those Guys match on the Sanctum part of Nepal, and this is why I don't necessarily think the quad tank is going to become meta, because you only really see it on these parts of the maps. On other areas and other typical maps that you like to see, like, I don't know, Hollywood, Watch Upon Gibraltar, Route 66, those very typical payload maps, dive tends to be the staple composition that you see a lot of, and really it's all about feeding these Moiras in these closed up areas. This is why you run the Zarya and the Reinhardt especially, is because when you have a Junkrat on the enemy team, the Zaryas can eat up a lot of charge, but Kib on this Junkrat and Urki on Angry Titans as well is just about throwing in as much damage, getting his ult, and then making as much use of that ultimate as possible. So that's generally the hero that you want to see played a lot when the quad tank starts to come out. But the general bit of advice I would give on countering quad tank is knowing when to expect it, really. If you're playing on Horizon Lunar Colony, I would put good money on the enemy trying to run quad tank into you, so you need to be prepared for it in a similar sense that you would prepare for triple tanks on some of these other maps that we're seeing. If you fail to prepare, you prepare to fail, and that's exactly where quad tank is incredibly strong. Just those areas where you kind of get, oh, they're running quad tank, oh, we catch Hinge heroes, they're going to take the point almost instantly, and that snowballing effect can be the difference between you winning and losing. So it's incredibly good if you're running a very typical lineup on, let's say, Volskaya Industries. You both attack the point with your typical 2-2-2 dive setups. You have the lowest time and you really want to take the advantage over the enemy. That's where you go, listen guys, I think we should quad tank, and you can get a lot of use out of it with very little coordination, very little synergy by just running these tanks on the point. So it's all about trying to expect those situations where you feel that the enemy are going to try and cheese combat. Very similar to having a Bastion on the payload as well, where you need to be prepared for it, otherwise he's just going to tear your team apart and you're going to lose the point very quickly. But it certainly seems like quad tank is just going to be one of those map dependent strategies that's going to come out here or there. There might be teams that run quad tanker like Kings Row or Dorado or something ridiculous like that, so they're almost impossible to prepare for. But if you are playing on the likes of 2CP especially, Hanama I can think would be a big problem for it. Volskaya especially would be very good for quad tanks first point. And then also, of course, Horizon Lunar Colony. You need to expect the quad tank, and you need to maybe go, we could do with a Junkrat especially. Hog would be really good against it, he can sort of hold his own, but just be prepared. Soon as you see it, call it out and try and get around it. But that very interesting composition that Mangachu mentioned, I don't know if I'd want to try it out, but if we already have a Hanzo on our team, I can't see the problem there. But I just wanted to share all of this information with you. Hopefully we'll see more teams be able to counter dive with much more accessible strategies. But right now, run the Junkrat. He's going to be tremendous right now, and he's still in a really good spot. So if you're cautious of quad tank, play the Junkrat. That's his new favourite role, and that's exactly what he wants to be doing. But let us know what you think in the comments below, and until next time, take care. We'll see you then.